Hello everyone, welcome back to another Project Gladiator weather forecast. Today I'm going to be covering the weather for 2020, April 23rd, 2023, and this is the third weekly overlook, so I'll be covering weather for 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 the rest of this week and maybe a little bit into next week. For today though, on April 23rd, there's a an enhanced risk for southern Texas through the Rio Grande Valley. This was expected as Sunday was supposed to be more severe than yesterday on Saturday, and all the isolated storms have grouped into one organized system moving south. This is potentially going to give us, or give the Rio Grande Valley the potential for very damaging straight line winds. Not very damaging, but strong straight line winds, and the potential for large to maybe very, very large hail down through the Rio Grande Valley, and the potential for an embedded tornado with a system as it moves south and east into the Gulf of Mexico. If we look at the pivotal weather models, you can see all this that's left over from yesterday in central Texas is moving south and grouping into whatever is forming today down through southern Texas and the Rio Grande Valley. This is going to be organized into one big system and bring the potential for a very large hail to large hail, damaging straight line winds, and the potential for an embedded tornado. The atmosphere, as I said yesterday, is still really prime today for severe weather. If we look at the lower level jet, you can see that there are some pretty strong isolated areas where the low level jet is pretty strong. So I'm guessing that because it's isolated, it's going to be strong in those areas more so than if it's regrouped. But I could also be wrong. It could be weaker. I'm not really sure. But you can see, especially here, a strong isolated low level jet. And that is associated with the storm system that's moving southeast into the Gulf of Mexico, and because of the isolated low-level jet, it's maybe going to bring the potential for some embedded tornadoes with this system as it moves south. And if we look at the Cape, the instability in the atmosphere, you can see that there is still a very unstable mass of air, like adding to the how the atmosphere is so prime for severe weather down through the Rio Grande Valley. And then if we look at the dew point, if we look at the humidity in the atmosphere, you can see that there is, come on now, there is very humid air down through the Rio Grande Valley. Especially the more south you go, the more humid it gets, and probably the more south the storm system goes, it's probably going to get more intense the more south it goes, and then finally move off into the Gulf of Mexico. There's not really that strong of a dry line. It gradually increases from central Texas, so it's not going to be isolated. It's going to be mostly organized, probably because of that. Actually, no, that's probably not true, because if the dry line is very strong, it's probably going to be more so likely to be grouped into one big line, but that could also not be the case. It could also have nothing to do with it. Again, I'm not a certified meteorologist, but the potential for large hail And if we look at the the wind shear through the Rio Grande Valley, there is some strong wind shear down through there, especially when the storm system is expected to move into the Gulf of Mexico. You can still see that there's some strong wind shear down on land, giving it the potential for the embedded tornadoes. So again, the atmosphere down through the Rio Grande Valley is prime as it could possibly be for strong, severe weather, uh, embedded tornadoes, damaging winds, and large hail. But for weather for the rest of the week, if I do not want to contact them, but I do want to go into a bigger view of the United States. You can see that there is, by Tuesday, it's expected for development of severe weather across the Midwest to start developing and move eastward into Missouri, Arkansas, and be pretty grouped up in this area through Kansas, Oklahoma, maybe parts of Texas, Arkansas, and parts of Missouri. And that's going to continue eastward, reaching the Mississippi River by Wednesday, and continuing eastward, and maybe even a little bit of development in central Tennessee, starting off the rainy week for the southern half of the eastern United States, more so than the northern half, and that's going to continue eastward. And then you can see that there is another round coming off the Rockies into the Midwest, where it starts strengthening, and that will get to the Mississippi River by Thursday and continue eastward, more intense than the first wave of rain, and potentially bringing the second wave is potentially going to bring the possibility for large hail and damaging winds in some of the central parts of the system, and that continues eastward. But then you can also see how development from the Gulf of Mexico starts, probably from everything moving from the Rio Grande Valley into the Gulf of Mexico, and then probably developing in the Gulf of Mexico to move eastward onto Florida. And then you can also see development through southern Georgia and northern Florida, possibly isolated supercells down through there. But then the development in the Gulf of Mexico will continue east and most likely merge with the system that is developing in the deep southern United States through Georgia and northern Florida, continue eastward and organize by Thursday and most definitely Friday, and continue eastward into northeastward through South Carolina, Georgia, and then going off into the Atlantic Ocean, and finally clearing most of the United States and finishing off in the New England area by the start of Saturday. But then you can also see, well, actually more on this. This is going to cause the eastern United States and the Midwest to be pretty rainy, pretty much rainy for the entire week, starting Tuesday and ending Friday for the southern United States, but then also continuing into the New England area by the start of Saturday. But again, because this is so far in the future, and this is a weekly overlook, it is subject to change, and I will be covering it as it changes the next few days as all this weather moves east. and develops in the Midwest and moves east. And it's going to be pretty rainy for the eastern United States, especially the southern part, mostly the southern part of the eastern United States. And again, ending Friday in the New England area. But then I'm pretty sure this also caught your attention over here. Yes, there is a third cold front that is going to enter the United States in the through Montana and North Dakota by Thursday. Continue southeastward and develop a strong frontal boundary of severe weather along the Mississippi River by Saturday. Yeah, most likely by Saturday, and continuing eastward past the Mississippi River into the rest of the eastern United States, and bringing not really severe weather, but just not really severe weather, but lots of rain for for areas that are affected by the low pressure system in Indiana, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Illinois, and maybe parts of northern Kentucky continuing east. Where we're going to see most of the severe weather with this is along this line south of the low pressure system. As it continues east, you can see that the low pressure system, the cold front, is probably going to bring the potential for hail, damaging winds, and I'm not sure about the tornado threat. I will most likely give updates on the tornado threat as by Saturday, as the cold front really gets into the United States and continues eastward. Again, it's pretty much doing the exact same thing. It's probably going to do the exact same thing as the cold front that we just saw a few days ago, but minus. Actually, I'm not going to say minus because I'm not sure about the tornado threat down through here. There could be the potential for isolated supercells along the frontal boundary, like we saw with the cold front that just passed through, but it could also differ and be a strong organized system instead of isolated supercells, but I'm not sure. I'll update you guys as this continues eastward, but it's probably going to bring the potential for large hail and damaging straight line winds across the eastern United States, especially in probably by the what am I trying to say here? Especially by Tennessee and the North Carolina border, and through Virginia and down through the Atlantic plains. It's probably also going to bring. This is subject to change again. Is probably also going to bring the potential for hail a lot earlier with the cold front, but it's probably going to do the same thing as the other cold front we just saw, as it lessens over the Appalachian Mountains, and then strengthens back up over the Atlantic plains, bringing lots of hail and maybe the potential for an embedded tornado. We might be able to figure out the potential for tornadoes if we look at a few different things. For example, Cape. If we look at the Cape for the cold front as it moves eastward, it's possibly going to bring the potential for maybe not, but possibly the potential for tornadoes, especially along the frontal boundary by Saturday, or not Saturday, that's Thursday, that's the wave of severe weather, but by Saturday, it most likely probably won't bring the potential for severe weather, or not severe weather, but tornadoes. It's going to probably bring severe weather, but not really much tornadoes. The tornado potential is probably not going to be very big as the cold front moves east. But for Thursday, that from the 2 rounds of severe weather that we saw move across the southern United States by when it's in the Midwest, by the Midwest ages of it, and through the Arkansas area, it's probably going to bring the potential for tornadoes, possibly tornadoes. And then as that moves east, probably bring the tornado potential through the Dixie Valley and continuing eastward. But you can see that the first wave of severe weather for the southern United States is probably not going to be as severe because it's like it's almost not there when we're looking at Cape. There's hardly any instability at all as it moves eastward. So it's probably not going to. It's most likely not going to bring the potential for tornadoes as the first wave of severe weather moves across the eastern southern part of the United States. But the second one might bring the potential for tornadoes, and it's most likely going to be more severe than the first one, bringing possibly with the increase of hail, and most likely if there is hail on the first one, it's going to be larger. If there is no hail on the first one, then there's probably going to be hail on the second one. It's overall just going to be more intense than the first one, and most likely more severe. But for temperatures, if you're worried about temperatures for the new cold front that passes through, you see as it starts warming up across the northern United States from this cold front that happened recently by Saturday, you can see the cold front here making its way southeast and across the eastern United States. It's not really going to make temperatures dip as low as we saw them do. The last 2 times a cold front passed through the eastern United States, and it's probably going to recover and get warmer much quicker than the other 2 cold fronts. In fact, the possibility, I'm thinking that it possibly might push a lot of the wind from from this cold front might push a lot of the cold weather along with it out of the eastern United States, allowing it to warm up more. That's my thought process. That's what I'm thinking, but that may not be the case because I'm not a certified meteorologist. But that's all I really had to cover for this week. So please go down to the description and check out the socials for Project Gladiator, and I'll hopefully be back tomorrow with another forecast.